Hello, welcome to the Garden Gym. Today we're going to work through some short strategies and tips we can employ in our training and in our fighting. The first one is the use of the guard. And the guard isn't just there to protect you from what's being hit. It also works really well as a fence to keep people back, to give them something to have to fire through if they're going to score on you, and also to give you an understanding of distance. So your guard is movable, but the basic guard is here in points, so that you can keep this hand up protecting your face, this hand protecting your body from side kicks and long back fists that can strike in and score points. But also the guard is used for measuring distance. Now you can fight with your hands down here, where you might have a good understanding of distance where your opponent is. But if you've got your guard here, anything that comes inside this area here is getting dangerous, and you need to stretch the distance if you don't want to counter. So it's a good idea to have your guard there, measuring everything that comes in at you. So if someone's kicking, you can keep back, you can move with it, you can measure where their techniques are. If kicks are being thrown, you get your hand up, have the kicks on the end of your hand. If they're getting towards here, coming through, then there's a chance it could be a score, or they're closing on you to throw a reverse punch. So the guard is very important to use, not just as a defence, but also as a measuring tool. You can also move in with your guard and block anything that's coming in order to attack afterwards. Another thing that goes along with the guard is the stance. Now, however you stand, it's always a good idea to keep onto that front leg more than on the back leg. Here, especially in points, because as you're moving around, that lends you into driving an attack in, scoring a point. If you're stood neutral, that's fine, it's okay, but you will be slower getting forward. If you stood back here, that's not good necessarily, unless you're aiming a kick, looking for a kick, but it will be obvious if you lean back. But if you're leaning back, then you're exposing this area here to be scored on, and you haven't got the reach to get in. And if you want to get from here to there, obviously there's a lot more seen, a lot more movement, and people will see that. When you stand in your stance, you may be, say, using your distance about this far away from the opponent, say here, then you don't need to lean forward necessarily. What you can do from there is move your feet back, but keep your head forward. So you're still maintaining the same distance, you're still understanding where the distance is. You're not standing in this position and then leaning into the number 2 area, which is the danger area. So when you're fighting, more of an attitude of this way, leaning forward, what we call a sprinter stance, so that when you want to launch something, you can just launch, leaning forward, gaining that distance. Yeah? It's easy to switch from there to moving backwards if you want to as well. Including the stance, when you're sparring, the worst position to get into is this here, where you pull your legs back, straighten your legs up. Once you've straightened your legs, you've lost most of the spring from them, you've lost most of the energy from them. So when you're from here, if someone shocks you or you get surprised by a technique, the tendency is to pull back, pull your head up, pull away, straighten your legs. And this is probably the worst position to be in. It's okay if you're deliberately looking for a kick or something, but generally when you get surprised by a technique, you are into this mode here, yeah, into this motion, leg straight, pulling back. You won't be able to get back because you straighten that leg, yeah, and you won't be able to find an effective counter because you're now on your back foot. It's a position never to get into. If you want to, what you can do is think in your feet, so that if someone comes, you move your feet out the way, you shift your feet, but always trying to keep that stance where we can drive back forward, drive a punch in, get back into the scoring area. And also, if you're fighting more in this stance, then when you make a move to try and get, say, your hands forward, they will come like this, and the head will be seen coming forward. And what you should do in a fight is watch that head. Watch for when that head moves forward from here. As that head moves towards you, there's generally hands coming. If the head doesn't move, it's normally the kicks, because the head will go back or stay upright, depending on the ability of the kicker. But if you're here and you're watching someone's head, as they go to throw something, their head will move towards you. Now this exaggerates it from this position forward, you can see it more. Now when you see someone, if you're fighting with someone, watching their head, as soon as the head moves, we can stretch that distance. Yeah? As soon as the head moves, step back and kick. As soon as the head comes towards us, we move away. And fighters get this naturally after a while, where they'll watch the body language of the opponent. And it's really key to any fighting. What your techniques are, what techniques you do is one thing, but watching that opponent and seeing the body language of what they do and how they do it is just as important. So when you're watching them, as they start to move, you can see that. And then after a while, you'll start to see them set that move up. So not just this bit here, you'll see the sink before they go. Yeah, and that's another good one to watch for, is that sink or that change in attitude. So if someone's bouncing around, they go, and they have this, in they come. Yeah. Also, someone can have a moving about and then they slow down before they come in. There might be any kind of tell that you can see, but you need to watch for that. One of the ones is the head coming forward. So if someone's back here, as you're fighting them, watch for that head, because they'll try and it'll take them longer to get there, and you'll see them easier. Another one to watch was in the footwork. If people have their footwork, they move about, shift here, then all of a sudden they'll stop and go for a walk. Not everybody does it, but some people do it. So they'll stop and they'll go for a walk over here. Yeah? Or they'll be here fighting you and then they'll be moving to here. When they're doing that, they're not fighting. They're thinking about moving to a different position. They're in between what they're going to do. And it's a good time, generally, to attack. Especially if you've got someone who does it as a natural thing. Just walking across, moving about, then they go. Yeah? When they do this, it's a good chance to either press them backwards, launch an attack, or make a score. So watch for that when you fight someone. Watch for you doing it as well. It's okay when you're shifting here and you're ready, but it's when you're just stand up and go for a walk. If they go for a walk, take them out. When fighting with people or sparring on the mat or competing, it's important to never do what the other person wants. Try and get in their head, see what they want to do. Sometimes when you're fighting, you can see where someone wants to get that point. They really want to get it. Now you've got options there. One good option when they're really hunting to get the point is to just keep increasing that distance, keeping away from them, frustrating them. Keep away from what they're doing. As you do that, eventually they'll make a mistake or they'll get too close and you can counter on it. But by frustrating your opponent and not being where they want you to be or not fighting the fight they want you to fight, you've got a much better chance of winning. For instance, if an opponent's got a good reverse punch, say from here, and they're a good reverse or reverse blitzer, or they work from that side, or they're a good counter or reverse, then don't stand on that side. Keep on to their left side, your right side. What this does is if they want to reverse punch you down the centre, they're going to have to turn that a little bit more to get that punch in. And that's going to make it awkward for them. That's going to make it harder. And it's also going to make it difficult for them to recover so that you can counter on them as well. If your opponent's looking to back fist, say, all the time, they're a constant back fist to the face, to the face, to the face, you can keep your guard up just to break that for them, just to make it difficult for them to do. Yeah? And also, when you see them move forward, you see their head, then down, under, into the body, or side kick into the body. So using that back fist against them. And when someone's kicking at you, there will be a point where if they throw several kicks that will eventually be dying down. Yeah. So as they're kicking, it comes and drops into what they're going to do next, maybe. And it's the gap we want to get into when we fight the kicker. So if they come up with their kick here, as it's dropping down into that gap, into this gap here. So whatever kick they're doing, as they're kicking it up, as it's dropping into the gap there. Now if they're covering down here into the gap at the head, doesn't matter. But you're looking for that kick to die. So you're moving around, ready in your forward fighting position. As that kick starts to die, you drive your technique into the ribs here. And to get caught with that as little as possible, what we need to do is when we kick, we should be starting our punch while the leg's in the air. So that when we land, our punch is hit. So rather than kicking down, hit like this, our punch is hit really before our legs hit the floor, if we're following through. 1, 2. Yeah. From here, kick in. Okay, so what happens then is the gap between the dying leg and the hand is much quicker. And if you're going to do it with a reverse punch, kick and then turn the leg. So try not to kick, come down sideways and then drive, because it will be big and seen easier. If you can kick and as you land, turn the leg, drive forward into the punch. And that will speed up your reverse punch. Also with the stance, another thing you can do is actually fighting around is you can shorten the stance and it gives you that drive a bit more into what you're doing. So if you're here, this way, moving around, shorten it, and then you'll get a drive into the technique. Now it has to be done without the opponent seeing, so it has to be done in the footwork. But it's a good thing to practice. When you're coming around, shorten the stance and drive it, whatever you want to do. And that little bit of shortness here gives you that extra drive into the technique, or extra distance when you move forward. So it can be from anything here, driving it in. So just practice moving about, shortening the stance to go. You've got to watch out how you do it though, because if they spot you doing it, then they'll be able to predict when you're going to come forward. So it can be a subtle thing, not too big. A lot of strategy in points is to try and get you to pull the opponent so you can come back into the your jumping back fist here. Dummy him, pull back into the jumping back fist. And the way to counter this is to make them do the jumping back fist. Dummy them, make a quick dummy so they do the jumping back fist. And when they land, then we drive forward with whatever technique we want to use. So from here, if we dummy as they jump back, as they land down, then we can come in side kick and start pressing the opponent back. Because what happens is when they come down to here, if they're not ready, they're off balance. They're in this backward stance position, which isn't good if you can get in there. So if you dummy them, let them jump, as they land, attack, maybe with a kick or a punch. What happens a lot on the jumping back fist is as we go for the attack here, our hands are here, and then the head gets hit. So if you come in and you notice that they've pulled you into the jumping back fist, get the hand up high, keep it up high, go with the reverse, because that can take out the back fist.